Welcome back to More Moss to the People. My name is Åsa Nilsson and I am your host. Today, I have a most auspicious guest with me, my mother. For
Hello.
those, this is my mommy, Taimi. For those of you that are only listening on the podcast and that you cannot see her, she is sitting to my side and we are sitting on my sofa here in Västerås, Sweden. So my mom is here visiting. And this is something that I have wanted to do for so long. And I have asked her many times, Mom, would you be a guest on the podcast? She says no. And even as of this morning, she did not want to be here either. But she is doing this for not just for my sake, but also for her children, her grandchildren, her great grandchildren, her friends near and far. She's got people who love her and support her all over the world and that have had the pleasure who have gotten to know her over her lifetime. And so I think that it's really important for legacy to record voices and to record stories. And that is, of course, part of the entire premise of More Moss to the People, that we get cool people on here that are willing to talk about their lives and their journeys and where they are today. So welcome, Mom.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here. It's wonderful to have you in Sweden.
Nice to be back.
Yeah. So every summer, thankfully, we hold our thumbs. That's what you do in Sweden. You hold thumbs instead of crossing your fingers, you hold thumbs. We always hold our thumbs that Mom is going to be able to come and visit every year. So you used to come for 3 months and now you come for 2 months, and that feels good for you.
Sure, sure.
Hmm.
I stayed 1 month in New York
Yeah.
with my other girls.
Yeah. So I am the youngest of 5 children, and my oldest sister Annalie lives in Houston, Texas, and my brother Ulf lives in Westerville, Ohio, right near Mom. And then I have 2 sisters, Maria and Eva, in New York. So Mom gets to travel a good bit every year. You go visit all your kids.
Try to.
Yeah, try to.
Mhm.
And but her favorite thing to do, of course, is to come here and see me.
But no. Is there ever a question?
No, there is no question. Oh, well, so Mom has a super interesting life story. And as of today, sitting here on July 30th, 2024, you are 88 years young.
Mm.
And Mom's story started in Finland. She is born in Tampere,
Viljakalla.
Viljakalla, Finland. So, I'll do most of the talking, and then you can kinda, like, fill in, you can pepper in some things that you wanna add, okay?
Sure.
Okay. So, Mom was born in Finland during World War II, and her mother and her, sister and brother, um, were, of course, living in Finland, but there was a war, and so the girls, my mom and her sister, Hilka, who is still living, thankfully, in Skövde, Sweden, about 3 hours away from here, and she is 89 years old. My mom and her sister had to leave Finland. My mom was 5 years old, and my aunt was 6 years old,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So do you wanna talk a little bit about why that happened? Why did you have to move?
We had to leave because there was no food. My father had died the fall before we left. And that's why I have my dress here that I
Mhm.
used for the funeral and also for the trip over to Sweden. And my sister had it just look alike.
Hmm.
So that's what we can look at my dress now. We still have it.
Okay, so there's a story. There's a story, of course. Everything's got a story.
The side
There's a
story.
side story to, my mom. Okay, so just imagine being 5 years old and your sister being 6 years old, having to leave your mother. So her father passed away fighting in the war, in World War II, and her brother, her younger brother, Matti was his name, he had to stay behind. So my mom and her sister had to leave their mother at the age of 5 and 6 years old. 2 children leaving on the first aid boats coming from Finland to Sweden. So they're crossing the Baltic Sea in a boat, underneath the boat, because you had to be underneath
And it had the red cross on the top.
Yep, the boat
So
that
it
took
should
them,
not be
yep. Which was interesting
done.
because there was some kind of like an unwritten rule that the Red Cross boats weren't shot at. So they weren't bombed from people flying over in the airplanes. They didn't bomb the first, the Red Cross boats, which there happened to be. How many children do you think?
Few hundred?
So children, were the boys also?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Was only
boys and girls were transported out of Finland so that they could have a chance to survive. So families in Sweden basically fostered children for war children from Finland to come in to be able to live with them. Now, my mom and her sister Hilka, when they came, they both had identical dresses on when they traveled. Now, what time of year was that you came? Do you remember?
spring.
Okay. Now, spring in Finland is not warm, nor was spring in Sweden warm. Do you remember how cold it was?
No, I don't, but it was snow. It was still snow. And remember what I had as an identification was a snöre, I don't know,
String,
a string with a
like a piece of paper.
cardboard with my name, how old I was, and where I was going, because that was important. But that was the only passport I had.
Hmm.
So if I had lost that one, nobody would knew who I was.
Hmm.
But luckily, it hung on. And my sister has hers
Yeah.
still. I
Yeah.
don't know where mine took off to.
So that was an actual piece of paper that mommy had on her neck. Her sister and all the kids had
Yeah.
them. And that was like, they're almost like, I hate to say this, but cattle
Yeah.
being brought through to say, okay, well, once you got off this boat, then you had to get on trains to be distributed all over the country to the family that you were going to be going to. So to come back now to the dress, my mom and her sister had on, remember, it's snowing outside. They were extremely poor, came from very poor background, and these children were moved out so that they could survive, literally so they could survive because there wasn't enough food, there wasn't enough anything for too many people to make a living or to actually be able to eat and live. And so that is why the children were brought out. So my mother still has, for those of you that are on the YouTube video, you'll be able to see, this is my mom's dress. We still have the dress that she had on her when she moved as a 5-year-old from Finland to Sweden. And I mean, okay, this is not wool. This is a very, very thin material. And this is what my mommy was wearing in the snow when they came to Sweden. It was so sweet. Um, so my aunt can't find her dress, but my aunt still has her label that was around their neck. My mom can't find her label, but she has the dress. So that's beautiful. And when mom came, mom's Kleefberg was showing. Uh, so when mom and her sister came to Sweden, they were separated. They didn't go. They lived in the same town, but they went to different families. Talk about that. What was that like for you?
Well, it was scary, very scary. But, we got food, we got clothes, and we had nice people around us. It was very nice, but scary. I
Well, you
think
didn't
that.
speak any Swedish.
Of course not. And my foster parents did not speak any Finnish. So we just had to get along the best we could.
And you do,
And
right?
we did, yes.
Yeah, you make it
Yeah.
work. So mom went to one family, an elderly couple that never had any children that were so nice to take her in. And my auntie Hilka went to a different family up the road that had 6 boys, had a completely different childhood, had an instant big family. And mommy went to her parents, which were wonderful human beings that took care of her beautifully.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so mom never went back. Mom never went back to Finland. And
I did not go back before I had my first baby.
1958.
Yeah. And that was due to my father, Swedish father. he said that because my mother in Finland wanted us back to help her, with money or whatever. And my Swedish father said, no way. The girls are not going back before they have yrke.
Some kind of education or job, work possibilities.
Yeah. So he wrote a letter to my mother and to everybody that she had to help her, and said that they are not coming before they have a job.
How old were you then?
18, 19?
So no,
17.
Okay. So they wrote the letter saying you're not going back.
Yeah.
You need to stay in Sweden. You need to get an education if it's possible, or you need to get a job so that you can provide for yourself.
Yes.
And so my mom, what did you do?
I went to a town, Skara, and became a teacher. And I lived there for 2 years. And I never came back to you again.
You is the town that she went to.
There I lived.
Yeah, when she had relocated to Sweden. The town is called UHJO. The town slogan is "I love you," which is a side note, but still a very nice town slogan, I think.
Yes.
So, and we love you too. But mom lived there, and then you met dad, and then you got married.
And then I got my first baby. And then that summer, all three went back to Finland to visit. And that's also an experience, because, you don't really know what you can expect. And boy, was that a surprise. The roads were just craters. They hadn't had any money to repair the roads. So there were bombs had fallen, and the houses were burnt down, and it was shocking, really shocking.
But that was how many years after you had left? Because if you left when you were 5 and you were born in 36, 36, 39, 40, 41. So in 1941, you left Finland.
42.
42. And then you came back in 1958 to Finland for the first time. And this is when you got to see your mother again, your birth mother, for the first time since.
And my brother.
And your brother. Yes, your sweet brother.
Yeah. So they had built another house, because what we lived in when I was there was more like a cabin on the lake. So I was born in the sauna.
Side
nice
note.
and warm.
But yeah, a side note, Finnish people love saunas. The Swedish people love saunas too. But back in the day, people had a sauna for cleanliness reasons. You needed to kill any kind of bugs, or that basically helped you to keep clean.
Yes. Yeah, because you had always warm water when you had the sauna going.
Right.
So, and the water you had in the lake. So you always had.
And it was heated by wood. So there was wood from the forest, and then of course there's water in the lakes. Yeah. So what was that like for you to see your mom for the first time since you were 5 years old?
I didn't know her. Of course I didn't know her. But I could see that I have had pictures sent from cousins of mine. So I knew what she was going to look like. But I was not comfortable by any means. And we stayed with the cousins of mine and her mother, who had a pensionat, bed and breakfast, or whatever you call it. And she had more things. She had income, so she had food, because it was still restricted with the food, even though it was so late.
Because of the war.
After the war. It took a long, 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 long time for Finland to grow back. And I remember when I came to Sweden and I heard an airplane coming. Oh, I screamed, Molotov, Molotov. And he was the war minister in Moscow at the time when the war was there. So I thought that we all had to go and hide so they couldn't see that we were there. Because we had to do that in Finland when we were little. We had to run out in the woods and bring a sheet with us to cover us. So we looked like the snow that we were hiding on.
So you took a white sheet and you
Yeah.
hid underneath the white sheet in the
Yeah.
forest so
Yeah.
that it looked like snow so people wouldn't bomb you.
Yeah.
God, talk about
That was what I
post-traumatic stress
remember from
disorder.
that.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Ugh. No, I can't, I mean, like this, that is just so, you have been through so much and then having to leave your country when you were so young, leaving your mom. To me, I think that would be so hard to leave my mom and to leave my brother. And then travel with your sister, which was great, but I mean, you had absolutely no idea what was waiting for you.
No.
How do you think that has set you up in this lifetime? Because I personally think that you're a pretty chill gal. Like you take things as they come and you don't overreact in advance. Like you don't sit there and freak yourself out and give yourself every single possible scenario. You just wait for things to happen and then you take it and then you think it through.
Yes.
Do you
I think that comes from the early experiences,
I think so too.
really,
Yeah.
that you couldn't. Oh, why should you? You know, get scared beforehand. You don't know what's coming up.
No.
So you just have to wait for it to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, I could learn that lesson still today. I'm still working on that one.
Is that what they have told you?
I'm still working, Mom. I watch you. I watch how you react to things, and I mean, you have had so many things since I mean, obviously, this is how it started. This
Yeah.
is how I mean, you're an Aries, you're born April 8th, and you're an Aries, so you're definitely a fire. You got a lot of, power in you, and people have always really looked up to you and respected your advice and your counsel. And my father, who passed away in 2005, dad was um, dad was the controller of the family. He was the one that told everybody how everything was going to look. He organized everything. He did all that. So we thought, obviously, mom was taking care of everything in the background. I mean, it was a good teamwork. I mean, you had five of us. You had five children also that were hopefully helping you out with some things. But you before you even came to America, you were a school teacher, you rode a motorcycle to work, like, you had a motorcycle, an actual motorcycle.
Yeah.
Mom, I mean, she's like this little renegade, she's like a little badass, and I can't even imagine, and then, before we moved to America, she also gets her pilot's license, she decides that she wants to be a pilot, and what was that like for you?
That was fun. That was real
Oh
fun.
my god.
And I had a very good friend, Goldis. We were doing it together. Maybe I wouldn't have done it if she would have been so hi-ho about it. But
I think
oh boy, it was fun.
I can't
That was
believe you
fun.
did that.
And the first trip Goldis and I made was to to Oslo, of all places, as soon as we got our license.
Just the 2
Of
of you?
course, yes, of course we had to try it out. So we we decided we were going to Oslo. So we did, we then put the fuel in the plane and off we went. And we landed, of course, in the airport there. And we thought it was very funny because there were not many people around. And then we came into the station and we said, can we have some coffee? I said, no, we don't have any service today. I said, service today? Yeah, it's a holiday.
Oh.
So we couldn't get anything to eat, but we had brought something with us. So we had a sandwich, but we did not get any coffee.
God forbid, Mama doesn't
God
get her coffee.
forbid I didn't get my coffee. And then we went back.
Wait, how long was the flight?
That I don't remember. Not that far. No, a couple of hours maybe.
Okay.
And then we went back, and of course, new as we were, we hadn't checked how much gasoline we had. So we had to go down in Karlstad and buy some fuel. And then we took off home.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were the daredevils.
That's Mom. I would never, oh my God.
So
I'm starting to sweat like right now listening to that
Then we
story.
came back, and they said, "Oh my God, girls, what have you done?" And I said, we just took a trip.
We just took a trip.
Mhm.
We took an airplane. We flew an airplane. Me and my girl took an airplane to Oslo, Norway for the day. Find out nothing's open. You can't get a cup of joe. So you return. You don't have enough gas. You stop in Karlstad, which is basically you had to make an emergency landing to get gas. Or yeah, petrol for the airplane. Oh my God. All right. Yeah.
That was
Those were those days. And you would still do it today if you could. You would still be up there
Oh, I
flying.
would.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it.
Gosh. All right.
Absolutely.
Mom, you're too funny. So then in 1973, the family, my father got a job. He worked with a company called ASEA, which is now ABB. You may have heard of it. My dad was an engineer, and he was to start a new job in America. So Mom had my father moved like a year in advance.
No, yeah, he was there and checked it out a year in advance. But then he moved in March.
Oh, okay. All right. So he moved in March, leaves Mom here in Sweden in the same town that I live in now, right down the street. He left Mom with 5 children. So at that point, I was 5, and the oldest one was 14.
Yeah.
So from the age of 5 to 14 with 5 children, Dad leaves, goes to New York and starts, taking care of his business, and leaves Mom to take care of everything. How was that like for you?
Never do it again. And I don't recommend it for anybody.
Oh my God. I can't imagine.
And then we have to pack up everything we had, because they were going to go on a ship over all our things. But luckily, we were only supposed to stay for 2 years. So I figured 2 years, I can stand it, really.
I can do anything for 2 years.
Yeah. But then all the furniture, most of our things left. So we lived out of our suitcases the last month and a half. And we had a bed that we have borrowed from good friends. And I really don't know how the kids lived.
You don't remember?
Like gypsies, I guess.
Gypsies.
Yeah, and but we had the washer and dryer, so we could, handle that. And I was teaching as well, and I went for the ship
Hold on.
license as well.
Keep talking, Mom.
Okay, and then that was something to just keep me insane. Not insane, not insane, but sane.
Because you had a job.
I had a job and I was studying. I love studying.
What were you studying?
The ship license, the captain license.
Oh. Oh my God.
Because I always got seasick when I went on ships, on boats.
Maybe because you were on a boat when you were 5 years old coming to Sweden.
Oh, but
Under some scary voyage.
It was scary, but it was good. Because the first time ever I got rice pudding or rice gröt, risgrynsgröt.
Yeah, rice pudding.
And I still love that.
So you got that on the boat?
Yes.
Because you were probably starving.
Yeah, and I've never had rice.
Oh, so rice
So
wasn't served in
rice
Finland?
and milk, rice and milk, you know.
And that was a
the-
luxury.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had never had it before.
Hmm. She really does love rice pudding even today.
Yes.
So that's interesting. Rice. I like rice too. Um, so my mom was teaching at a school for what, third graders? Fourth graders?
At that time, third time.
Third graders.
Third grade, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so this picture, why I just jumped up and ran away, for those of you on YouTube, this was my mom on the last day of school, basically a couple days before we were relocating to America. So my mom, back in the day,
Yes, the same.
looks just a little difference in hair color. And so mom was left to move us across the pond by
Yes.
herself.
And
And
we packed up everything that was left. No, I had to sell a car first,
mm,
and I did.
and I did. And I did.
Nobody thought I was going to be able to, but I
Why?
did.
Why couldn't you sell a car?
That was not for females to
Women
do.
folk don't do that kind of
No,
thing. I wasn't.
there's only men folk who can do
I
that.
didn't see any men folk trying to help you.
No,
Hmm.
but I sold it. And then we packed up everything, and a limo came and picked us up at Tant Gun's.
Yeah. And Tante Gun is our family member. We consider her a family member, and her family still to this day are our family. Tante Gun Jonsson, and she lived across down right over there. And she let us stay with her the last night before, with them, her family, before we moved to America.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then we came to Arlanda. Everything was good.
Arlanda's the airport in Stockholm.
Mm. So we sent our luggage away, you know, and we just had some things with us. And then we sat there and waited for the plane to get ready. And then my son declared, I am not going.
I'm not moving.
What the heck do you do then?
So Ulf was 13 at that time.
And he was not coming with us. He was staying. But then after a while, he changed a little bit on that declaration. I said, if we go by a 747, I'm going. And luckily, the captain that was going to take us passed by us that night, so he heard it. So he said, where are you going? And he said, I'm not going anywhere. I said, you just said you're going with, if you have a 747. Yeah. Luckily, you are going on a 747, but not from here, but from Bergen in Norway.
So you were flying from Stockholm to Bergen, Norway,
Yeah,
on one plane.
And there we were going to get the 747. I do not know what kind of plane it was to Bergen.
Hmm.
So finally, he gave in. It was a stone from my heart that fell. Shit kid.
Mother!
Yes.
Thank you. Shit
I
kids.
tell you.
Isn't she sweet? Isn't she
She's
just a
sweet.
sweetie? I can't
Yeah.
imagine. Again, 5 children on her own from the ages of 5 to 14, traveling internationally by herself to a country she has never even been to. Thankfully, you did speak English. And Annalie, my oldest sister, spoke English. Ulf spoke some English.
Some, yeah.
Yeah, some, but I don't think Eva did. And Maria and I certainly didn't. So we made the trek. We made the trek across the pond. Ulf got on that 747 in Bergen and everything was a-okay. And then my father meets us in New York at JFK.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the only one then.
Yeah, and he picked us up in his big love bus, Volkswagen love bus, and it was pouring rain. Remember, Mom? It was pouring rain and thunder, and we're traveling over one of those bridges, whatever, one of the big ones, and the car breaks down in the middle of the rainstorm.
And then, but luckily it was on top, almost on the top of the bridge. Oh my God, what's going to happen here?
Oh my God.
This is a country we are going to live in. But luckily, I don't know
Somebody
how Daddy
helped.
got somebody to push our car, so we got started to roll down.
And then it kicked it into gear.
Yeah.
And it started again.
Yeah.
This is how the trip to America started. Yeah, 1973 in June, right? 50
Yeah.
years ago, 51 years ago now, we relocated to America. So, a good friend of mine, because I put a post out on Facebook and Instagram showing mom eating this shrimp sandwich this past weekend, and my friend Sinead Fine, my wonderful tarot teacher in Israel, she asked me, she said, why did we go to the US? And now we have gotten that answer for my father's work. And it was only supposed to be for 2 years.
Yes.
Of course, mom still lives in America, so it's been 51 years. So it wasn't exactly 2. And what do you feel about belonging? Because so first, when you were coming from Finland to Sweden as a 5-year-old, how hard that had to have been because you were a tall girl. You were like you were much bigger than the other kids, and you didn't speak Swedish, and you were Finnish. I mean, that all of those things. And then you come to America as a Swedish woman, Swedish Finnish woman with a bunch of children. Everybody thought of us as the Von Trapp family in that movie. I can't remember. The Hills Were Sound of Music.
Kind of music.
And I mean, the feeling of belonging and how important that is. How do you feel that you kind of adjusted, or did you feel like you belonged when you came to any of these places?
That's a big question. I thought that I belonged to Sweden when I was there,
Mm,
but now I belong to America because
mhm.
I live there. So even though I say that home is in Sweden, but I live in America
Yeah.
and I love it. So
Because I
I
ask
haven't.
mom all the time, "Mom, why don't you just move here and live with Thomas and I? I mean, we don't have any kids. You can just live here with us. We'll have such a nice time. You can visit the family." Every single time, no. No, she doesn't want to. She wants to stay in America. And is that because, I mean, you feel comfortable there? You feel, I mean, of course, the majority of your family, your own children are there and grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I want to be close to them too.
Yeah.
And you are just the two of you, so you can travel,
Isn't she sweet?
don't you think? I
It
think
is
so.
easier. I mean, obviously, it is easier for
Yeah.
Thomas and I to travel to you, of course.
Yeah.
But,
But you have a cat.
yes, we do have a cat. We
Mm.
do have a beautiful cat. So do you think, um, more moss to the people, the idea, mom actually listens to my podcast episodes every week, and I'm so thankful for that. That makes me so happy. I mean, I
Why
think
shouldn't I? Of course I should.
it's really nice.
I
I think
will.
it's nice.
I don't should. I
She
will.
does. She does do it, and I appreciate that. And, you Finnish people are, I think, extremely concerned and interested in nature and understanding the value of grounding ourselves with the earth, to the soil, to the trees, to whatever, and having a slower lifestyle. Swedish people, I think, are becoming more Americanized now with more pressure and having to do and having to, the whole that's kind of that feeling of pressure and productivity. What do you feel? What do you see in your viewpoint, your eyes, through your perspective, that about this whole thing about how life has changed, how life is changing right in front of our very eyes and how it's going so fast. What are your thoughts on that?
Of course, when I grew up, everything was much, much slower.
Yeah.
But we also didn't have many cars. because they had gone to the army.
Mm.
So, and the horses, they're taking the horses too. So my father had a horse in town. And he had a car, but the car, they had taken the tires of the cars for
They
the
needed.
army. So everything was, of course, slower because you didn't have everything. But now when I come back, everybody is well off. They have it good. And so they have in Finland, I'm very sure about that. We have been back many times. And it's a pleasure to see how it has changed to the better.
Finland has become a wealthy country.
Yeah, the house has paint on them. The roads
Fixed.
are fixed and has cement or oil, gold, something with oil. I don't remember the name of it. Ja, nu har jag sagt ett ord som jag måste fundera på.
Now she's gone to Swedish. Now she's thinking, she said a word that she has to think about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the premise of Thomas and I, we believe that personally, Thomas is just like my mom. He's real chill. You know this, you guys have met him. And I'm a lot more like me. So I need to be out in the forest because I have got to calm myself down and I have to be able to kind of like self-regulate. And in order to do that, how can I do that? I go out for my walks every day. Or I drink a lot of water. I love to be in water, even though I have not been in water still.
I have.
You have? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At Eva's. I was in the pool every day.
Eva is my sister who lives in Paterson, New York. She and her husband, Stoney, have a pool. And that was a big deal. That's a big deal for mom because her mobility is not super duper. And so they have a pool where they have steps that go down and mom has a way to hold on and to get into the water and to hold on to a flotation device. And Stoney got in the water with you every day. I mean, what did that feel like for you?
Very, very nice. And it was very kind of him to take care of me.
Yeah.
Because even when I was sitting under the umbrella, he gave me a summer hat. And do you know what that was? That was vad heter det?
A wet towel.
A wet towel to put on my head so I shouldn't overheat.
So you didn't pass out from the heat because it was crazy.
So that was very nice. I was
Crazy
sitting out for 4 hours every day reading books.
That's nice. It's nice for you to be able to do that.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is healing. It is healing. So, I mean, this for you to sit and support me by listening to the podcast every week and for you to be sitting here with me by my side right now and talking about your life, the beginning part, up to the age of, what were you? I was born when you were 31. So when we moved here, you were in your 40s. So, can that be right? If you're 88 now. So we're going to leave it now. We're going to leave it now. Otherwise this episode is going to get too long and maybe we could do a phase 2. We can do we could do the next phase, talk about life and some more things. And please, you're welcome to send in questions. If you have anything for my mom, if you'd like to know more about a certain story, anything like that, we would love your engagement. But this sharing of stories, I want you to understand this is Swedish death cleaning also, right? Sharing the stories, because if we do not know the stories of our elders, of our parents, of our own family, then the stories can't go any farther. We can't share it with our kids or our grandkids or great grandkids. So please take us as an example of it's possible to talk. It's possible to talk about hard things, and we will talk about that next time because mommy's done Swedish death cleaning in her home. She's done that. We'll talk about that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff was thrown out because I had collected stuff that I don't use.
Everybody does. Everybody does. But we'll talk about that next time. So thank you for listening in. Thank you for being here. Send us any kind of feedback or questions that you might have for my mom. We would love it. And it feels really good to be back. Feels good to be back. We'll see you next week. Take care. Mwah. All the best. Bye-bye.